Hello there, and welcome to Jump Button Gamer Podcast. I'm Mike Woodard. I'm joined by Kosta. He's the Fallout. I'm the boy. On today's show, we are on the eve of the next generation of game consoles. Do you like these intros? Are you enjoying these little segments here?
Sure. Sure.
I thought it was accurate. You know, you're the Fallout fan, the game fan, so I thought, that worked.
I guess I would prefer to be that than just be the boy.
I know. See,
I appreciate that.
I'm giving you the more positive sides of these. You know,
Yeah,
I called
Fallout.
myself the Panic last week. So.
Nuclear war.
Hey, it's fitting. We are on the eve of the next generation of game consoles. And so, to honor the last generation of consoles, we're going to take a look back on today's show at some of our fondest memories from the last generation of games. It should be kind of fun. We'll talk about some anecdotes. We'll also dig into a little bit of Watch Dogs Legions, because I started playing that game, and I can give you some of my impressions of it. And we will also do last week in game news, so we'll do a roundup of all the news that hit this past week. But first, Kosta, how much CNN have you watched this week? I mean, I have to bring it up, you know? I mean, we're right in the middle of this. We have to talk about it.
I mean, just news in general, just too much. Too much. I have not played nearly as many video games because of the news.
I posted this to our Facebook and Twitter page, but the first night, I was playing Watch Dogs Legions as I was watching the coverage. Like, I had the coverage playing on my phone as I played the game. And, you know, in the game where, you know, you play as DedSec and you're part of a hacker resistance group. So I felt like that was kind of fitting. You know, you're trying to get people to join your cause and rebel rouse and everything. I was like, this matches. This feels accurate. But it's in London, though. So it's not the same thing. It's not like fighting for America's freedom.
Well, I mean, you have Brexit. That's a whole other thing.
That is a whole nother issue. But yes, I have been watching a lot of CNN, and we were just having a lot of fun talking off air about those poor camera people and PAs and the anchor. I mean, you know, all of them just have to do crazy hours. And
well,
I mean,
hopefully it's whoever. I mean, they're absolutely spending the night at the studio. They're not going anywhere.
I
so
agree.
hopefully the poor souls that are stuck there maybe have like a Nintendo Switch or something to occupy their whatever little downtime they have.
I'm just imagining it's like the scene in I don't know if you've ever seen the scene in The Office where Jim and Andy have to stay or have to work late, and Andy pulls out a mattress from under his desk and he's like, "You want to share? It's a roomy twin." It feels like that's the scenario that played out.
They're hopefully whatever couches are in the green rooms or whatever are also sofa beds.
I'm sure they probably gave warning ahead of time to everybody, like, "Hey, look, we know what this is going to entail. Y'all are in for a tough week, a long week." Yep. But I mean, depending on how they get paid, though, I mean, they're probably making buku bucks. Hopefully, I would hope.
Treat yourself to an Xbox or a PlayStation 5 with that overtime money.
Exactly. Look at you. You're the perfect setup for almost perfect segues. Because we're not talking about the next gen consoles, but we would have in like the main segment. So close. Let's kick the show off with talking about what we are currently playing. Kosta, what have you been playing? Last week you were very sus because you started playing Among Us. Are you still very sus?
I actually haven't played any Among Us since then. I've still been sort of playing around with the Dynamax Adventures in the Pokemon Crown Tundra DLC. Okay. I actually did manage to get my first shiny legendary through that. I got shiny Suicune.
Oh, nice.
For anyone who remembers Suicune, the water legendary dog from Gold and Silver.
Absolutely.
Yep. So when he's shiny, he's got a nice little mane on the back of his back is like a really like royal blue.
Ooh, I like that.
So it's a cool looking shiny. So I got that.
I always liked that in Crystal. That was the one legendary that they like gave to you. because like all three legendaries would spread out across the map, but Suicune came to you and you got a chance to capture them right away.
Yeah, different from Gold and Silver.
I failed.
Well, because in Gold and Silver, all three of them roamed.
Right. But and that's the thing. If you failed to capture Suicune, then I think it did roam.
Right.
But they gave
you a shot to catch him right
exactly.
away.
Yeah, that was like the whole like gimmick of Crystal was, hey, you can get Suicune.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. But with everything else that's been going on, I haven't really been playing much else. I'm honestly I have been sort of just been parked in front of my TV while like having my Switch in my hand and playing because because then since I'm watching the news and stuff, I'm not running games on it. So that's pretty much been it. Though I am also thinking about maybe jumping back into another playthrough of Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is another really great game on the Switch.
Wow.
So it takes a long time to get through one playthrough. It's like 70 to 80 hours.
Oof.
So I don't know if I'll actually ever complete a second playthrough.
Yeah, that's rough. Ooh.
But I do know like there's some sort of if you're committed enough to play through as like sort of the head for each of the three different houses in the game, then you unlock some like another bonus playthrough, which no, not gonna happen. But it's a fun game though. I mean, if there weren't so many other games coming out in the very near future, I'd probably consider it.
And we are about to get slammed with games. I know we've brought it up before, but this month especially, like we've been repeating with the new consoles, there's going to be a lot of new game material to play. So our time is going to get very, very used up very fast.
Well, Walmart has been the only retailer so far that I've seen actually announce that they are going to have extra stock of the Xbox Series X on launch day.
You know what? I was actually going to ask about. My initial first thought of like a chit chat topic for us was going to ask you if you had plans to still hunt down an Xbox on launch.
Right.
So are you going to try that?
I'm going to try my best. Obviously, I'll know rather quickly if I'll be successful or not because Walmart put on Twitter that at midnight, November 10th, there'll be more Xbox Series X's available for those who did not manage to get a pre-order, and it's online only, so they won't be available in store.
Okay.
So, and even in the tweet it says, start exercising or like start practicing hitting the F5 key on your keyboard. So.
That's a good one.
Again, so that just tells me, so like if I'm fortunate enough to, like I'm pretty sure I'll know within the first few minutes whether or not I'm going to be able to get one.
Sure, yeah.
Unless Walmart sort of implements the same strategy that either GameStop has used or that Best Buy did when they had a random inventory of Xbox become available where they sort of stagger people from like getting on the website to pre-order or to purchase. So... that would be preferable because then at least in that scenario, I feel like I at least might have a shot rather than like getting on and then the website keeps crashing every time I try and put it in my cart or something. So I'm going to try, but pretty much if I don't get it at midnight from Walmart, then I'll be banking on trying to get it on Black Friday.
Oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense too.
Yeah, because Best Buy, Walmart, Amazon, they've all said they'll have more stock available on Black Friday, but Walmart is the only one that's come out and said we'll have extra on launch day. So we'll see.
Yeah, good luck to you. So like I mentioned near the top of the show, I started playing Watch Dogs Legions because I got it for virtually free. I used like reward points to get it, and so I started playing, and it's fun. It's very similar to if you've played Watch Dogs, the first one or the second one. It's very similar in setup. You can hack everything. You can hack cameras, cars, everything you can see. Obviously the big feature of that game is the permadeath system and the recruitment. So the story is set up where basically DedSec, the hacker group that you work for, is set up as a scapegoat for a bombing that takes place in London. And basically, DedSec gets blamed for that bombing, and then they're trying to rebuild their group. and basically this private security company has taken over the streets of London, and they're basically running the whole place. So you basically become a member of DedSec trying to rebuild DedSec, and obviously you're trying to recruit people. You do have the option to play without the permadeath system. I chose to play with it because I thought it would be more fun.
Sure.
It's very interesting. It's very cool. Somebody made the comparison that it's very similar to the Nemesis system from Shadow of War. And I think that's very accurate because you basically use your phone, and any NPC that walks by, you can like view their stats, and you can view like what they would bring to the group. Like if they have like an extra weapon, do they have access to buildings? Do they have access to certain drones? Very cool, like a loadout. Now, to recruit each person, you would have to see how much they like DedSec or not. Because a lot of them don't, because obviously DedSec was blamed for this terrorist attack. And basically you have to do missions to gain their trust first, and then you can recruit them. And then you can swap between them. You have one central hiding place, and basically all the operatives gather there. And once you start building up that operative base, it's kind of cool because you see all the people you've recruited just hanging about, and you can swap to any of them at any time. It's like I said, if you played Watch Dogs 1 or 2, it's very familiar very quickly. It is fun. There's a lot of things on screen happening, and that becomes like that's always been a little bit of an issue with Ubisoft games, is that they tend to like load up the map with icons and symbols and things to collect and do. And this has a lot of like visual stuff happening all at once. You've got all these techno visuals all around London. You've got security drones. Like every second your reticule is going spazzing around the screen trying to find things that you can hack, which is kind of fun because when you're driving you can hack a car and make it crash so that you don't crash into it. And it's actually very fun too because a lot of the cars are self-driving cars, so you get to steal self-driving cars. It's a lot of fun. I haven't made it too far into the game. I've only done a few missions. You have an AI assistant named Bagley, and he's a combination of K2SO and Jarvis, where he's like a computer intelligence system, but he has kind of like the attitude that you would think of K2SO. And so he's kind of cocky, and he's very sharp and very witty. And so a lot of his dialogue is fun to listen to. I'm enjoying it. I don't know how much staying power it'll have once I beat the story. But again, I'm not that far into it. So in my experience so far, I have enjoyed it. It's not blowing me away or anything, but it's fun. And I've definitely have stayed up between up to 2 a.m. over the last few days playing it. So I definitely enjoy it to a degree if I'm staying up that late. There was one cool moment I saw already where you basically have to go onto a rooftop to hack into an apartment, and then to leave the mission, the character jumps into like a nearby bay, like a nearby like harbor, and as they jump off, because it's a steep jump, you hear the Assassin's Creed
the eagle
cry leap. And I was like, okay, they threw in the very cheap reference.
Ubisoft has been known for having like Easter eggs referencing their other games.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's always been sort of like a speculation that Watch Dogs exists in the same universe as Assassin's Creed.
I would not be surprised if that is the case. Or maybe it's like I agree. I think that's the case. You know how like Pixar, it's assumed that all the movies kind of take place in a similar universe, right? I mean, and they hint at that all the time. By and large, you see references to Pizza Planet, all that.
I think it was so I know like in the first Watch Dogs, I think there was somebody like an NPC that you could find in, if you looked at their information, it would say occupation like works at Abstergo Industries or whatever.
Oh, there you go.
And then I think it was in Watch Dogs 2.
Mm-hmm.
I might be wrong, but I know that there was in another Ubisoft game, but I believe it was Watch Dogs 2. There was an Easter egg in there that sort of hinted at the existence of Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh,
like there was like a poster, like on a wall somewhere or whatever, and it made sort of people think, oh, like the next Assassin's Creed game is gonna be like Viking themed or whatever. And so they hide like little things like that in their games. I don't know. I can't think of anywhere like there's references to Watch Dogs or anything else in Assassin's Creed, but there have been a number of Assassin's Creed references in like Watch Dogs and other games.
Sure. And that would make total sense to me because that's kind of what I keep thinking when I play this game. Just everything just feels very similar to like the Animus, and both games kind of use the same like digital framework. You know what I mean? They both have all this very flashy, glitchy technology stuff, digital code and all that. So yeah, they do feel very similar. So I would not be surprised if they do consider that to be like a connected universe, basically.
Sure.
But yeah, so I'll have more impressions the more I play on. I think the game does a good job at giving you different options to complete areas. They have just like Assassin's Creed, they have restricted areas that you can enter, and then you enter in a stealth mode, and you can either shoot your way through or you can try to be stealthy. And they give you a lot of options, and it can be a lot of fun. So I want to see what the later game story mode has for it. But yeah, right now it's been a lot of fun, so that's what I've been playing, and until the PS5 comes out, that's probably what I will be playing. Moving on to one of the main parts of our show, last week in game news. Now, granted, there hasn't been a whole lot of game news since we are on the cusp of the next generation, like I said, like I keep repeating, because really, when this episode airs tomorrow, the Xbox Series S and X will come out. Mm-hmm. So we really technically are on the eve, even though we're not recording this then. But by the time anybody's listening to it, it will be the day before the next generation. So speaking of next generation, Rockstar has announced that GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 will be backwards compatible. I think we already kind of knew that with GTA 5. Because I remember they put that in one of the PS5 announcement videos. But Red Dead 2 being confirmed backwards compatible is awesome.
I mean, yeah, ultimately not all that surprising considering that, sure. Considering one, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been, like, upgraded for, because it was originally PS3, Xbox 360.
Right.
And, and now,
we've had 10 years of the same Grand Theft Auto game.
Right. I know that the GTA Online is still a fairly active community. Mm-hmm. So they're still supporting it, and so it makes complete sense for them to make it compatible on PS5 and Series X.
Right.
And same thing goes for Red Dead. Obviously, that's sort of like one of the crown jewel games of this past generation. So, no surprises there. Now we all just sit back and wait for GTA 6.
Well, and it's funny. I think this announcement gets kind of undercut because I have seen content creators use Red Dead Redemption 2 as a load time comparison between the consoles. Sure. So it's kind of odd that they waited this late to even say that this would be backwards compatible. I guess we all kind of assumed that would be the case because that game only came out 2 years ago.
Yeah,
so,
and also at the same time, I know Microsoft's been putting out a lot of stuff. They've said that there are, I can't remember the exact number, but there's essentially 10,000 plus games that are compatible on Series X and S. So you would have to assume in a library that large that like one of the most popular games of this past generation is going to be one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and also it's just more opportunity, because if you're anybody who somehow missed out on playing Red Dead, or GTA, I don't know how anybody's missed out on playing GTA 5 at this point. I mean, considering the support it's received.
I was about to say, I don't know, has anybody not played GTA 5 at least twice by now? Because it came out on 2 different consoles.
I will say, though, I didn't actually play GTA 5 until I played it on Xbox One. Like, I actually did not play it on Xbox 360. But I did get it on Xbox One. Obviously, so much fun to play. But again, it just makes sense.
Right.
They did it for, they've done it for GTA 5 a couple times already, and it only makes sense they'll do it for Red Dead. So
absolutely. They've also announced that LA Noire the latest version of LA Noire, because I think they updated it for the consoles in the last few years.
I gotta say, LA Noire, I remember vividly how excited I was to play LA Noire.
Yeah.
I remember when it was revealed at E3 so many years ago now, and at the time I was working at GameStop when it came out. I had it pre-ordered, because I just remember seeing the reveal, and they were sort of flexing on the face capture technology.
Right. Yeah.
And at the time it was incredible.
Oh, absolutely.
Being able to see like little ticks and movements in a character's face to try and read them to see if they're lying or not. And I mean, admittedly, I will say, like, it was an okay game ultimately. It wasn't bad. I don't think it quite lived up to what I was hoping it would be. Right. But I still liked it, and it's really the only other game other than GTA and Red Dead that Rockstar has put out.
That's true.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if they revisited it with the new technology, with even better technology now to really try and make something of it. So we'll see what they do.
I'm glad you mentioned it being just an okay game, because that's exactly how I felt about it. I've tried playing it once, and I mean, I don't know if I'm just not that smart, or if I'm just not that good at reading facial cues, or if the game's systems just confused me. But I don't even think I may have made it out of the first case, and I think I quit on the game about halfway through the second case, because it just felt like everything I did, it just felt like I was wrong. It's like I doubted one witness when I thought I should have doubted them, and it turned out I was wrong. I accused one witness that I thought I should accuse because I thought I saw something, and then I was wrong. I didn't. I remember specifically the game actually told me that because I didn't ask one witness about this, or I didn't press them on something, I had to do a whole apartment search that I could have avoided if I had just asked the right question. Like, the game told me that. And I was like, how am I supposed to know that?
I will say, I kind of, because one of the, games I kind of enjoy playing just as like a break from the usual stuff are the Sherlock Holmes games.
Oh, really?
They're just like sort of a break, because they're obviously kind of like LA Noire-esque. You're solving crimes and stuff like that, and you're deducing things. But I think that using the clues and stuff and how you come up with your deductions and accusations, I think in those games is better than what they did in LA Noire. So like, if they just took, because admittedly, the Sherlock Holmes games, I mean, they've put new ones out on PS4 and Xbox One. They look awful. Just awful. Graphically, they are some of the ugliest games out there, but sort of like the puzzle solving and the everything, like, that's fun. Sure. So like, if you take the look of LA, I mean, even LA Noire back on the 360 looks better than the latest Sherlock Holmes games on Xbox One and PS4.
Wow.
So I would much rather like just take like sort of the tech behind LA Noire and sort of put the challenge in the puzzle solving of the Sherlock Holmes series into that, and that would make a really, really great, I think,
I always
sort of
thought
mystery puzzle game.
A few years ago, I thought of the idea because I was inspired by the Sherlock Holmes movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know how like Robert Downey Jr.'s character kind of had like that ability to sort of see things ahead of time, or he would gather stuff from the marketplace to use as a disguise. I thought they should make a Sherlock Holmes game, maybe not based directly on the movies, but like where you have almost an Assassin's Creed style like vision sense, and you can kind of see things. So like you could theoretically walk through a marketplace in the game, gather items, and then you could put those items, you could mix and match them to form your own disguises.
So in these games there is something similar to that.
Oh.
And like in Sherlock, the thing is like it's not like super detailed, you know. And like when you're like in Sherlock's apartment, he does have a closet of disguises.
Sure.
You know, like you don't discover the disguise. He just happens to have like a default set. Like like you know, he can be a doctor, he could be a butcher, he could be a fisherman, he could be like all these different appearances that he can go with. But when you're on the scene, if you're somewhere and you're looking for clues, there is sort of a vision that you can use, and it'll make certain items stand out more clearly.
Oh, okay, sure.
You know, but your interaction with the environment is very limited. You know, so like really you'll only pick up on the items that are important.
I was going to say, are these open world games, or are they?
They're very
like
linear. They're very linear. They try and get. I will say, like the annoying part of it is like there'll be times where like you might try and like find a person, and like you'll get their address, and you'll sort of be in the vicinity of the address, and you got to walk around and find it. And I'll say like the pacing of the walking is slow, and it's frustrating.
Oh no!
Like there's no like fast walking ability or anything like that, and so
you walk as slow as
the controls are kind of wonky,
right?
know?
So you walk as slow as Nevada counts their ballots. Again, we're in the middle of this week. I had to say it.
It's so like I said, the look of those games. And some of like just the I guess the mechanics of like moving around and everything aren't all that great, but the actual sort of like puzzle solving aspect of it is fun.
Gotcha.
You know, and I think since that's sort of like the meat and potatoes of the game anyway, like it sort of makes up for everything else.
Sure.
You know, but I would really though, I would really like Rockstar to take a stab at an LA Noire sequel or something LA Noire like.
Sure.
You know, again, like there's something there, you know, for sure. And I think it'll be really, really great for them to return to it. Or I don't know how, I know Rockstar's a big developer, so I don't know what the odds are of them being able to like, say, have like a smaller team. Like you have like your main team working on GTA, Red Dead, whatever the next big title is, and you can have a smaller group work on something like LA Noire.
By the way, very good job at skirting my comment and bring us back on track onto our main topic. No. I'm saying way to like completely dodge my joke and just be like, nope, let's get back on track. I appreciate it. No, I was great. I'm commending you. That was fantastic. So in that vein,
I should run for political office.
You should. You handled that situation beautifully. You'd be better than our current president. Anyway,
getting back on topic.
I know. Yeah. See, exactly. Anyway, so you said already how you're going to try to find an Xbox on launch day. Sony has also announced that it will be almost impossible for you to get a PlayStation 5 on launch day as well, unless you have already pre-ordered one, because they have announced they are not selling any PS5s in stores, in retail locations. So you cannot go physically hunt down a PlayStation 5 on launch day. So that sucks, because if you didn't get a pre-order, like we've documented already, it was hell trying to get a pre-order. And so if you don't have one, you're basically going to be stuck for quite a while without getting one. You might be able to get one with Black Friday deals, but that sucks. I mean, this is like one of the weirdest. I mean, this was inevitable, right? It's COVID-19. There's still a pandemic running around. This was inevitable, but it's just the worst thing that can happen during a console launch is not being able to get a console for reasons that aren't necessarily our fault.
Well, at the same time, though, I think it was at least they were upfront about it and letting everybody know, hey, don't go venturing out to like Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop, wherever, and try and find one. They're not going to be there.
Right.
Like, don't risk your health, by going out and driving around to all these different locations trying to track one down. And just letting people know, if you're going to find one, it's going to be online.
Right. Exactly.
And I think, it sucks that there's going to be limited quantities. Obviously Microsoft's in the same boat with the Xbox, but at least people will know where and how, they'll be able to try and get one. So they're not going to waste their time driving around from store to store, and the thing is now too, it's so funny. Like, I remember when I was working at GameStop, I like so badly wished that we would have like an automated phone system that would sort of keep customer calls at bay, and now they do. Like, you call GameStop,
of course.
There's an automated system that you have to work your way through before you're actually able to talk to somebody at the store. It'll tell you things like, if you wanted to look up trade-in values or yada yada yada, use our GameStop app and all this other stuff, which is great. Like, I wish that were around when I worked at GameStop, because we would take phone calls all the time, know. And so now you can't even, like, now you don't have to waste your time trying to call stores, because ultimately they won't even tell you if they have any in stock or not, because it's just like, even if they were to say yes, they can't tell you how many, because they can't guarantee that they'll still have any available when you go get it.
Right.
So it's a time saver. So if you're somebody like me who is still in the market for a next-gen console, drink some caffeine.
Keep the faith.
And, stay up for a few minutes past midnight, and hopefully you're able to track one down.
For the PS5 specifically, Walmart has indicated they will have a few times throughout the launch day that they will have stock available. The times here I'm reading are on Pacific time, so it says 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m., and obviously for East Coast time, that translates to noon, 3, 6, and 9. So... yeah, so you're basically stuck to waiting for those times and then trying to jump on and
multiple opportunities. The real
that
question
is good.
will be,
that is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. At least it's not, and that's the smart thing. I think the retailers have learned from the disaster of the initial run for pre-orders.
Yeah.
So by staggering things out, you're giving everyone sort of a fair shot at it. And I think that retailers are also trying to do whatever it is they can to prevent, bots from taking over and acquiring, purchasing all of the inventory. So I'll be very curious to see how Walmart, because Walmart's for the Xbox has not said that. At least I don't know if they sent out another tweet out to check, but the one I saw, which was actually retweeted. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it. It was retweeted by Larry Herb, who is an executive over with the Xbox team. He retweeted on Twitter saying that they'll be available at midnight online only, but there was no word on whether or not they would be doing like staggered releases of the inventory.
Okay.
So at least from that one tweet, it sounds like, at least for the Xbox, all the inventory is just going to be available right at midnight, and that's what's got me worried.
Yeah, that's definitely concerning. Yeah. Like I said, good luck. Keep the faith.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Yeah. All right. So, sticking with the PlayStation 5, I wanted to bring this up because this is just kind of a silly thing. The PlayStation 5 DualSense controller doesn't work natively with the PlayStation 4, but it works with the PlayStation 3.
Womp womp.
Yeah, you can actually use the DualSense to play the PlayStation 3. I don't know if, like... that won't probably change anything fundamentally about any of the PS3 games. No. Like, there are some people have videos of playing Demon Souls on the PS3, the original Demon Souls, with the DualSense. And doesn't seem to make too much of a difference, but it's just so weird. Why does it work for the PS3 and not the PS4? And they announced that it wouldn't work with the PS4 already, so that's not a surprise.
But someone actually tried to. Someone tested on the PS3 and it worked.
Well, you know, we do weird things through consoles at launch. Remember, we discovered that the Nintendo Switch cartridges have an anti-lick irritant because somebody decided to lick the cartridge for some reason, and that's how they figured out that they actually planned for that. I want to know who in Nintendo's marketing said, you know what we should really do? Make sure people don't lick our cartridges.
Well, they're like, well, we got kids out here eating Tide Pods, so we better put something on the cartridges to prevent them from swallowing them.
It's just silly. But anyway, that was that. That's all I wanted to bring up. It was just really silly.
Actually, one other thing I just remembered that we actually didn't bring up prior to the show, but I think Sony had confirmed that for whatever reason, the PS5 will not support monitors that max out at a 1440p resolution, which would be 2K.
Right. Yeah, which is
kind of strange.
Yeah, it really screws up people who have that setup.
I mean, you have a number of people, especially like if you're a PC gamer. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at the PS5 as being your secondary console, because I know, a number of gamers, like if you don't have a 4K monitor, you'll more than likely have a 1440p monitor that's like either 120 hertz or 144 hertz or whatever.
Sure.
And I mean, you'll still be able to. Well, actually, no. I mean, no. It's just so strange that it won't support that resolution. It's such a weird thing, but anyway.
No, you're right. That is a weird thing, and it doesn't make much sense.
I'd like to even know like how that even ended up happening. You know?
Yeah. What is the issue? I guess what causes it to not run on that frame rate? I'm not sure. I don't know if the story explains it or not. I'll try to look it up, but.
I just remember seeing it on Twitter the other day. I'm like, that's just kind of strange.
Also, more hesitancy to the PlayStation 5, unfortunately, is that it will not support expandable storage at launch, which seems really redundant, or maybe not redundant, but just seems strange, because now Sony said that expandable storage for the SSD for the PlayStation 5 will come in a future update, but there's no like time or window given for that update, and
so no one can use like a USB hard drive to expand their storage on their PS5.
Right. Externally you could use like a hard drive,
okay. So you're saying people can't crack it open and
right, and it's the solid state drive. Expandable storage is not
but see, you know what the thing is, but I don't know why anybody would actually want to do that anyway, because Sony's got a custom built SSD inside of, like, you aren't going to find anything else out there without spending a ton of money that is going to match the speeds of the Sony the internal SSD.
I think though unfortunately, the PlayStation 5 only has about 600 gigs of storage.
Yeah.
So if you want those games to run off the SSD, like, you're only going to get about, I don't know, 10 some games on there maybe. And
that's still not bad. I don't know how many people are playing more games than that at a single time.
I guess. And that's what I've seen. People who have gotten their hands on the PS5 so far have stated that lack of storage is disappointing. But it doesn't really become an issue until you reach that point, and then you're going to have to dedicate time to then, copy files onto an external, and then if you want to bring a game back, you're going to have to copy it back from an external, So yes, it's one of those where maybe it's not a problem at launch, but it's going to be a problem down the line. Sure. Especially when you have some of these games coming in at just huge amounts of gigs.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be normal now for at least big AAA games to probably average somewhere between 80 to 100 gigs. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they've actually said how large the install for like Cyberpunk is going to be, but I imagine it's going to be massive.
Yeah,
probably. So if you're only working with 600 some gigs on a PS5, I mean, like 10 might be a rather generous assumption. Like more than likely, it might be 5 or 6 games.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was just guesstimating.
Oh, no, I'm sure. Like you will have games that will be smaller in size compared to others. But if you're someone who really only plays like the big AAA titles, if you're playing Assassin's Creed, if you're playing Cyberpunk, if you're playing Call of Duty, eventually God of War and all these other games, like, you're only going to be able to fit a few of them on your hard drive, right, before you're going to be allowed to install anything else, But I would, at least to maintain the speeds, I have like a 4 terabyte external hard drive. I mean, it's an older one, it needs to be plugged in,
sure,
to a power source to work, but compared to the SSD speeds on the consoles, like it's really, really slow,
right?
Sure. So I might actually think of getting, instead, for an external one, get a external SSD, whether it's 500 gigs or even up to a terabyte if you want to go that big. It would still be a cheaper alternative to, say, because like the Xbox Series X has its own proprietary expandable storage cards, but they're $220.
That's very expensive.
And I can only imagine whatever is eventually available and compatible for the PS5 will be equally, if not more, expensive.
Probably.
So you could spend half that, maybe $100, $120, and get a terabyte, external SSD, and you'll at least have something a little more speed than if you were just using an external hard drive.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be an annoying problem to solve, but hopefully it won't cause us too much grief, at least when we first get these new consoles. So moving on to our backtrack segment, and in this segment of the show, we like to reminisce about memories of games past, or of games in our past. And today, like we've said, hammered at this point in over and over and over again, we're almost at next-gen consoles. So I thought it would be a great time for both of us to reflect and tell some fun stories about our fondest gaming memories from this past generation of consoles. So that's the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and I guess Nintendo Switch. So, Kosta, let's start with you. What's like the first memory you could think of that like you just love from this past generation?
Well, I had to spend some time thinking about it because I will admit, I feel like I feel like at least for the Xbox, like the generation started off a little bit slow.
Okay.
Sure. But I'll never forget sort of the experience of playing Sunset Overdrive. I've talked about that game a couple of times. In my opinion, it is still probably one of, at least as far as exclusive titles on the Xbox One, it's, in my opinion, the best, if not one of the best.
Wow.
Just so much fun. It sort of has that groundwork that, led Insomniac to making Spider-Man for the PlayStation, and it's just so much fun. But also, I would have to say near the top of the list, there were a couple of really great game experiences, being The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Do you have like specific stories or anecdotes from those games? Like what was like the moment you felt like a moment from those games that you just like loved? I guess that's kind of what I meant with the topic. Maybe I didn't make that clear.
Okay, so specific moments from the games. Okay.
I mean, maybe not specific, or just I don't know. I was just hoping to talk about like stories about the games that we've played that maybe included specific moments that we liked, or just general experiences is fine too.
Sure. I mean, I will say like, I'll never forget like the first time I used like the cinematic mode in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Like that was really nice. Cool. And my wife, she's I mean, there are games that she enjoys playing, but she's not a hardcore gamer. She's far from that. Sure. But I remember she caught me playing Red Dead, and especially when I switched to cinematic mode, and she was just sort of awestruck by the look of the game and how stunning everything looked. And the same thing goes for The Witcher, another really great game. And I think the one thing that The Witcher and Red Dead both share, not only in sort of their appearance, but also like the characters. It's some of the best storytelling between in any games that I've played, probably ever. And obviously, because of my experience with The Witcher 3, it has me very excited to play Cyberpunk. I would also probably say, and I did play Spider-Man on PS4. I gotta talk about Spider-Man. I mean, sort of getting to, having played Sunset Overdrive, then getting to sort of see them take that concept and put it into something even better. I bought a PS4 specifically to play Spider-Man, and it lived up to it. Probably my favorite superhero based video game ever. And on an offhand thing, not necessarily related to games specifically, but all the my whole life I've been playing video games, and when I became of an age where I was at a point where I was paying for everything myself, I never really like invested in like, I don't know, like the premium versions of anything, but I did eventually get the Elite controller for the Xbox One, and this has like totally changed my experience with gaming controllers. I mean, you hold this thing in your hands and you can tell that it is. I mean, it looks like an Xbox controller because it is one, but it feels so much different from like the default Xbox controller that comes, with the system. I mean, it's got some heft to it. Everything just.
I was going to ask, is it lighter or heftier?
It's heftier, but like in a good way. Everything just like the feel and the click of the buttons, the thumb. And obviously, you can adjust the thumbsticks and the D-pad and swap things out, and it totally changed my perspective on these sorts of things. I'd always been like, oh, a controller's a controller, whatever. But then I got my hand on one of these, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty great. And the cool part is that I'll be able to use this on a Series X whenever I get one.
There you go.
It'll move over, and and I guess just one other thing, I will say
just empty out the barrel.
Yeah. I'm just trying to sort of go over everything, that I thought of, but I will say though, and granted, like I still kind of consider, the Nintendo Switch being sort of, it's a part of this generation that's ending, but it's also carrying over into the new one.
Absolutely.
So this is definitely a cross-generational system.
Yeah.
But I think that the Nintendo Switch has really done something great, and I remember the first time, like once I got one, and then playing, Super Mario Odyssey on Breath of the Wild. Let me go back. Too. Breath of the Wild, because Super Mario Odyssey is great, but it really to me doesn't feel that much different to previous main series Mario games. but Breath of the
they all
Wild,
play similar,
right?
Yeah.
But Breath of the Wild, it was like, and I really hadn't played very many of the Legend of Zelda games. I'd only played maybe a couple. But when I finally got around to playing Breath of the Wild, no pun intended, but I was sort of like, my breath was sort of taken away playing it, because I'm like, wow, like this is, and you can take this portable,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that experience of taking a game of that magnitude on the road with you on a trip, whatever, was amazing. And also this being the generation where, my inner 10-year-old self finally got to experience Pokemon games on an actual console and not on and not on a Game Boy or a DS. Was great as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on a lot of that, to be honest. I don't really disagree with anything you said. I think a lot of decades-long dreams got fulfilled in this past generation. Mm-hmm. Like you said, seeing Pokemon on a console. Even when they came out with Let's Go, and it was, basically a remake of Pokemon Yellow. Mm-hmm. I loved that, because Pokemon Yellow was my favorite Pokemon original series game. And I just loved that they brought it back, and I know it wasn't that full leap that people were expecting, but then we got Sword and Shield, so that wasn't too bad. But I loved it. I loved seeing all of the classic locales brought to life in 3D. Like, that for me, for the longest time, I couldn't fathom as a kid why they weren't putting Pokemon on, like, the GameCube. And why couldn't I see Pokemon in these, at the time, great graphics on the GameCube,
right.
And like I said, we finally did get that. And then also, with the Spider-Man game, I felt like that was... And we've talked about this before, obviously, but to me, there hasn't been a Spider-Man game that matched the quality of Spider-Man 2's web slinging. Mm-hmm. The physics of that game, and just how fun, and the open, free New York just was perfect for the time in 2004 when it came out.
Thanks for listening to Jump Button Gamer Podcast.
To me, it hasn't felt like
you can watch this episode on YouTube.
Game like
just
that
search Jump Button
Gamer
Podcast. If you have a comment or question
Spider-Man
for our
PS4
show,
is
email
the game
us at
that blew Spider-Man
jumpbuttonpodcast@gmail.com. And it may be featured on a future episode.
Nailed
and if you haven't already,
nailed
please subscribe.
Every single thing it was supposed to do, and then gave us great references to those games. Like it acknowledged the history of Spider-Man, and that was so much fun. I wanted to talk about specific memories and stories from this generation. So some of the things I loved from this generation was watching overlapping systems in a game just all come together, and it gives you like a unique experience. And I'll explain. Shadow of War, for example. And I know we had Shadow of Mordor first, but Shadow of War was the first one, was just, in my opinion, a huge improvement. And there was a really cool moment in the game where I was fighting an orc boss early, and at some point in the fight, we hit like a fire barrel, right? And everything was catching fire. Well, I got the orc down to the moment where the orc falls to his knees, and then he starts monologuing. Mm-hmm. So he fell to his knees, and as he's on his knees, the fire starts engulfing him, and he's literally burning up as he's saying his final lines. Mm-hmm. I was blown away. I was like, holy crap, that is fantastic. Obviously I killed him a second later, but it was just so cool to watch that happen, to watch this, to watch him just burn because of an action in the game. Mm-hmm. It was just so cool. It's just one of those rare experiences. I was like, oh man, this is why games are fun. Go ahead.
Oh no. Well, if I can actually mention, so I will mention one experience, one sort of game moment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tracking down and taming the white Arabian horse in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh,
that was
man.
So that in the game was a really fun experience, because the whole process of tracking the horse, finding it, and of course, you're up in the mountains, it's snowing, the white horse snow, it's really, really nice. And Emily was watching, and you gotta sneak up on it, and you gotta, lasso it and everything. And I just remember sort of like the tension, like in that moment. And of course, then you gotta, get on its back and break it in and, and even just like all the hunting in that game too, just again, like when a game can build tension even out of like the side missions too, like the optional things, that was a lot of fun.
I do have I'll say this about Red Dead. Red Dead I loved so much. I loved Red Dead 2 so much because it changed my view. Maybe not changed, but at least for playing that game, it subverted my expectation about playing an open world game, right? Mm-hmm. So anybody who plays a Grand Theft Auto game, a Red Dead game, they go into it, thinking, oh, yes, I'm going to run in, start causing chaos. I'm going to shoot people. I'm going to do this. You play Red Dead 2, and I don't know about you, but there were times where the game just made me feel so shitty for doing all that stuff. Like there were some story missions that you had to do something, like beat up somebody or something. Mm-hmm. And then the game immediately made you feel like shit for doing it. And I loved it. It was because it hit me. I was like, whoa, this is the first time in an open world game like this that I actually feel bad about what I'm doing. And that's what the game did such a good job of, subverting that expectation where it actually makes you care about the actions you take. Like I mentioned Watch Dogs at the top of the show. It's an open world, you can go around, do whatever you want. You can kind of kill at will, really. I mean, you can drive around running people over. You don't really get in trouble that much. And it's just so weird because that just feels so empty now. Because we've done it in so many games, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's been so many Grand Theft Auto games where the whole fun is going around and generating your own entertainment by being a crazy madman. And now Watch Dogs Legions gives you a perfect excuse to do all that, but it's like now it just feels empty.
I don't think I've ever, like, in any game where they sort of give you, like, sort of, like, a good path, an evil path. I've always found myself going the good path. Like, I've never really gone the bad path, and sometimes it's like, in certain games, especially, like Dragon Age or Mass Effect, like, the different characters you interact with, you grow to like certain characters more than others. And so then you start, like, your decision-making gets influenced by, like, oh, what is this character going to think if I say or do this as opposed to that? Right. And I think that really makes for a great experience. And obviously with Red Dead, Arthur Morgan, like, you feel bad for him. Right. And it's also in the title. Like, redemption is in the name of the title. Like, you are trying to... essentially redeem the soul of this man who has lived the life of an outlaw, and he's trying to make a better life for himself and his friends or whatever. And, and he's just getting caught up in a bunch of awful situations. And, that just really, really speaks to quality writing and everything. Mm-hmm. And that's something in games, especially now that we're getting these more cinematic experiences. And that's really been, I think, the cornerstone of this generation is that the technology has allowed for developers to tell better stories. Yeah,
I'll agree.
I mean, there are 100%. A number of older games out there that have really interesting stories. Like, everyone loves to talk about, like, you're talking about, like, older games like Chrono Trigger and, Final Fantasy 3 and even like the original Final Fantasy 7, things like that. Like, these are games that had, like, great twists and stories and characters, but now with the technology that developers have available to themselves, they're able to take it to an even higher level, because now we are actually building even more, like, intimate relationships with these fictional characters. Yeah. We are making, like, we are being influenced. Like, our subconscious is being influenced by like our experiences with these games, right? And forcing us, or not forcing us, but like influencing how we are making decisions and how we do things. And that is just so surreal, which is why like I am just frothing at the mouth to play Cyberpunk. Because I feel like Cyberpunk has the opportunity to deliver like the next step.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, with that, you know. Right. And also with like the sci-fi skin, so that's going to add its own other little twist to it, you know. So that's certainly been sort of the trademark of this past generation.
Wrapping up the show, we like to play a game called Jump Button Trivia. And the way this game works, basically, we are going to... Now, this is a running game between me and Kosta, and we have to name a game based on 3 lines of the review. So, we are given 1 line at a time. If we can guess that game after just 1 line, we get 3 points. If we need another line and we guess it correctly, we get 2 points. And then only 1 point if we guess it correctly after all 3 lines are read. Now, we do have a slight amendment that we created a few weeks ago, where after the second line is read, we are then allowed to ask one clarifying question. So if we have a certain line of thought, we can maybe get some clarity on, you know, if we're on the right track or not. Kosta, what are we at score-wise?
You were winning 13-10.
Okay, now that I'm up, I'm going to ask that we stop counting the points. All day. I got them all day. Anyway. All right, so let's see how today goes. Kosta, why don't you give me my game first?
Okay.
See if I can maintain my lead.
All right. First clue. The library is insanely vast, and the first task you'll find yourself falling into is seeing if you can simply stump it and come up with words that aren't in the game.
Oh, man. Okay, so words that aren't in the game makes me think that it's a typing game, and if it is, it's very specific. It starts off in a library.
Let me read it again.
Read it again. Sorry.
The library is insanely vast, and the first task you'll find yourself falling into is seeing if you can simply stump it and come up with words that aren't in the game. I'll clarify. Like the library they're referring to is sort of like the database that it pulls from.
Oh, okay.
Not like a
physical library.
Like a physical library.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you telling me that. Okay, you have to stump a database. I don't think there's any way I'm guessing it on this line, so Please give me line number 2.
All right. Clue 2. Then you get to the meat of the experience. Challenges that are a lot more thought-provoking. How do you exterminate ants without upsetting a hippie or get rid of an infestation of rats in a multi-level room?
Oh, man. Rats in a multi-level room. Read that to me one more time.
Then you get to the meat of the experience. Challenges that are a lot more thought-provoking. Like how do you exterminate ants without upsetting a hippie or getting rid of an infestation of rats in a multi-level room?
Man. Oh, man. You got me stumped here. Trying to even think of what the question could be. Would you consider this game a platformer?
Yes.
I knew it. But that doesn't help me. I know, that's my one question. I blew it on something that I kind of knew. Oh, okay. So you got to try to get rid of rats. I'm trying to think of what game involved getting rid of rats. It's a platformer. It's not Ratchet and Clank because that game's not subtle enough. You basically would just go in and start blasting. So I don't think there's any level about a hippie. It's not not Sly Cooper. You already used Jak and Daxter as a game, so I'm sure you're not doing it again. So I can safely eliminate that one. Start off in a database. You have to stump a database.
The thing is that you're already up by 3, so even if you go for the 1-point question, I can't catch you no matter what.
It's not even like a Sly Cooper. It's not a Sly Cooper. There's no like. But
I will tell you this: the last clue will definitely narrow the focus down quite a bit.
All right, fine. Go ahead.
All right, last clue. The game is a 2D side-scrolling platform-like experience on Nintendo DS, where the idea is to use any real-world object to solve the problem at hand.
2D side. Wow. Oh man, how dumb am I? I don't know what this is referring to. It's a 2D side scroller. You said use any object in the world?
Where the idea is you can use any real world object to solve the problem at hand.
I don't know if I played this game, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm sure you've heard of it, but if you haven't played it, then maybe it might be...
I probably have not. 2D side-scroller. It's not... It's for the DS. It's not Cuphead, obviously. Ugh. Yoshi's Island? I don't know.
The answer is Scribblenauts.
Oh, I do. Now that you say it, I do remember that. I did never play it though. I know of the game, but
the first like level of the game is you type in words to try and see if you can find something that's not in the game's database of words.
Oh.
You know, granted, it's pretty clear, things like licensed characters or like vulgar words aren't in the game.
Sure.
But I think they actually released a version of Scribblenauts on the Switch that then added like Nintendo characters. So you could like type in like Mario, Zelda. I think it was funny too because like if you typed in say Zelda, but then you typed in like Sheik, Zelda would disappear and then Sheik would appear, and stuff like that. Or like you could type in Mario and then like Super Mushroom or whatever, and you give it to Mario and he would grow twice his size. And but I've only ever played the original Scribblenauts on the DS. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Very, very like innovative puzzle game.
Cool.
So yep.
You know what? I'm gonna claim those points anyway. I got them all day, folks. Anyway. All right, you ready for your lines?
Yep.
All right. Line number 1. You'll need to beat the entire game on Perfect Agent, the 3rd difficulty level, if you want to unlock the near impossible 4th difficulty level, Dark Agent.
Okay. All right. So.
Damn it! I think you know it.
So okay, you could not have made it. It could have really. Okay, so I have not played the game, but because Perfect and Dark, like Perfect Dark, it seems like too obvious. The only other thing that would make sense would be Hitman, but I haven't really played I've played Hitman, but not like. The really only Hitman games I've gotten into is like the newer Hitman, like the episodic ones. It's gotta be Perfect Dark.
Yeah, as I read that clue back, it then clicked in my mind the way it sounded. And I was like, because when I first copied the clue, I didn't think it was that much of a dead giveaway. But then as I read it back, I'm like, Oh, whoops. I chose Perfect Dark because since we're about to experience new generation of consoles, wanted to kind of go back a generation, you know. I know it was back on the 360, but still.
Well, that would be Perfect Dark 0 then.
Right. Yeah, that's what you said.
I said Perfect Dark, but
oh, whatever. I'll give it to you. That's it. You had it. By the way, I know you gave me the points, so I'm not going to argue too much, but I will say Red Faction 2 was in fact named Red Faction 2. I looked it up.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes. So, I know you gave it to me anyway, but I'm just saying, I was right.
Okay. I didn't realize that I thought Red Faction Guerrilla was the sequel to
it was
the original Red Faction, but there must have been a Red... Okay. I stand corrected.
There have been 4 of them.
Right.
Apparently. There was...
So it had been 1, 2, Guerrilla, and Armageddon.
I believe that was the case. Okay. I believe. I
don't know why I thought Guerrilla was...
I'm honestly looking it up right now, to be honest.
By the way, I mean, Red Faction's Red Faction. I'm not going to argue the...
Right, yeah, like I said, I know. That's why I'm not, like... I'm not focusing on it. I just wanted to bring it up because I found it funny. It says here on its Wikipedia page, Red Faction 2, just generically titled Red Faction 2. And then apparently there was Red Faction Beast, Beast. I know, you got me. Okay. Oh, it's a spin-off, that's why.
Okay.
And it was released on the Nintendo Wii. So, go figure, nobody knew of that one. And then there's Red Faction Guerrilla, and then Armageddon.
Armageddon I actually beat in one sitting.
Oh, wow.
It's a far more linear game. It's not really open world like the other Red Faction games are. Right. But I actually just on a whim, I checked it out when I was working at GameStop, and me and another friend, we just sat down and we barreled through the game in a day.
Nice.
So that was fun.
Well, that's it for our show today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. As always, you can connect with us on Facebook and Twitter with @JumpButtonPod. Until next time, see you in the funny papers.